for tuning in. I am your host, Tyrone Robinson of Opportunities to Serve, host of the OPT, To Serve radio show. Tonight I have with me the Miss Iola Harper. We'll talk about her journey to where she is now. We'll talk about where she is now. And we'll talk about things that may be able to help some people or inspire some people to rise to certain levels when your background is so diverse and you need to accomplish and achieve through different barriers and challenges that we all face every day. And so, would you call today an inspirational opportunity, or are you just gonna...
Let's call it that. Let's call it that. Absolutely.
All right, so Miss Iola Harper, tell us about yourself.
Okay, I am a 49-year-old married mother who has just been appointed to a pretty important job in the city of Philadelphia. I'm really excited about leading the Office of Economic Opportunity. So that takes you from, to where I am today. But it was a journey, and I know we're going to talk about that journey. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about what I do and how important it is, and how important it is to the vitality of the city, and to the economic, and what the Office of Economic Opportunity does to stabilize, or to attempt to stabilize neighborhoods and communities in the city of Philadelphia, which is really important to me.
We'll break it all down to us and make it simple.
Okay.
How can we understand what your title demands and expects you to do?
Okay.
Tell us about the expectations you have for yourself in a new position.
Okay.
And just tell us how we could help. What are some things that we could do as far as community or as far as a network that could help build upon the vision that it sounds like you are being enabled to pursue and act upon? Sure.
So the city spends money.
Mm-hmm.
It spends billions of dollars. And the Office of Economic Opportunity is in place to ensure that dollars spent by the city are spent using women, minority, and disadvantaged businesses to make sure that they're included. Part of the work of our office is also working with another unit called the Labor Standards Unit or Labor Standards Department to ensure that the workforce is diverse, so that projects where, particularly construction projects that require labor and that require workforce, that workforce, to the degree that it can, is diverse and inclusive of minorities and women as well. So this has been a passion of mine and a journey of mine since, probably since I got out of college. I grew up in West Philadelphia, and my first job out of undergrad was to work with a major retailer. I thought I wanted to be a fashion mogul. And so I went to, it was called Philadelphia College of Textiles and Science back then, but it's called Philadelphia University today. Majored in marketing and management and minored in textiles, and I became a buyer. And so I was fortunate to be placed in the Center City in a beautiful department store, and I traveled from my home in West Philly and walked through a corridor called 52nd Street every single day, and I got on the L and I went from 52nd Street, an urban corridor, to very beautiful, pristine department store where, people shopped and had disposable income and had things that folks in my neighborhood, some folks in my neighborhood, weren't as fortunate to have access to. And so the years that I worked there, I take that walk every day. Walk down the street, and I would watch, or I could see my neighborhood deteriorating before my eyes. And this was the neighborhood that raised me, where my mother could send me to the store, my friends, and we could go by ourselves, we could shop by ourselves, we could ride our bikes all over the neighborhood by ourselves and not have a worry or concern. And so my years traveling to this department store, watching the neighborhood deteriorate, watching the safety conditions, watching the conditions go down, starting to have concern for my safety, starting to see things happen that should not be happening. My concern in my heart grew for the neighborhood and for the community. And I knew that while this was a great job, that my heart was really in neighborhood development. And so one day I'm walking to the L, and I walk by and I hear someone say Pebbles, which was the name I grew up with, and I look down on the ground, and it's a childhood friend of mine who had fallen on really, really hard times and was literally laying in filth. And he asked me for $5, and I knew his name, I knew his parents, I knew his story, and it broke my heart. And so I gave him $5, and we had a conversation, and as I was walking away, I'll never forget, he said, "Those are really sharp shoes," because he could see my shoes from where he was laying. And so that was the day I quit my job. I went into work, and I quit my job. And, I was really scared about what I was going to do, but I haven't looked back since. And so I have been working in urban economic development, particularly in the area of small business development and entrepreneurship ever since, because that's a skill that I have. That's a skill that I had developed. I came from a family of entrepreneurs, and so that's kind of my journey of how I, started in this kind of corporate thing and literally said, you know what, this isn't for me. I really am passionate about neighborhoods. I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about economics and how economics impacts neighborhoods and people. And so I've spent my time there. So I know that wasn't the question you asked me, but I feel like we kind of went way around under the bridge, over the hill.
It was perfect because just this week, actually, a friend of mine asked me about small business ownership and entrepreneurship, and one of the questions he asked me was, where does he get started with a grant? What does he need to qualify? So if you wouldn't mind, would you mind answering that question for him?
I would not mind. So do you know what type of business he wants to start?
I believe a nonprofit.
Okay. So for nonprofits, there are grants. And so what he's going to really need to look at is what his mission is, what it is that he wants to do through his nonprofit. One of the places to start is the Foundation Center at the Philadelphia Library. They have a Foundation Center where you can go and you can research foundations and granting organizations to see who gives money to what. But even before he gets there, he really needs to have, does he have a plan in place? Does he have, has he filed for his nonprofit status? He's got a lot of work to do.
Right. We talked about that part.
Okay.
The pre-planning part. He didn't know if he should have a business plan already created, which I said it couldn't hurt to have a business plan created before walking into pretty much anything when it involves business, especially when you're talking about gaining some interest from people to give you money in any kind of way. And so he's just kind of brainstorming at this point. I think he does have a developed idea in his head, but that means nothing when it's not on paper.
Absolutely.
And so I recommended him to a website, one of the state-ran websites. Are there any other websites or places that you can recommend?
For nonprofit? The place that I would recommend that he start literally is he local?
He's right on 52nd Street.
Okay, all right. So he's from my hood. I would really recommend that he take a journey down to the main branch, 1901 Vine, and go to the Foundation Center. And it has resources and a number of databases and volumes and volumes of information that are useful to individuals who want to start a nonprofit. I really feel strongly that he's got to get his mission and focus and strategy aligned first, and then figure out how he's going to fund that mission and that strategy. And so to start with the funding aspect, even though we know that's a critical aspect, I think sometimes throws people off of the right path. So it really is looking at why you're starting this nonprofit, what are the populations that you want to impact through services that this nonprofit will offer, how will you deliver those services, coming up with a budget, what will it cost you to deliver those services, and then starting to look creatively at how to raise funds to do that. And, we both know that's not easy, but it's really hard to do that without having all of that other stuff in place first.
Indeed. Thank you for that.
Yep.
So you quit your job.
Yep.
And then what? What happened in between that time?
So I quit my job and I started working with a lot of neighborhood small businesses to teach them some of the things that I had learned as a buyer. When you're a buyer, you have to not only go out into the market and purchase what people are going to buy, but you have to figure out the pricing. You have to figure out how to present it. You have to figure out, these ratios that you think you'll never use when you're in high school algebra. You actually use them when you're figuring out how many dollars per square foot this blouse is going to earn. And so when I, had visions of being a buyer, I really thought about sitting at a fashion show, looking fabulous, looking at the models going down the runway, and figuring out what I wanted to buy. And in reality, it was being in dirty stock rooms. It was working on the sales floor, making sure that the right things were in the right place at the right time. It was figuring out sales curves. It was figuring out dollars per square foot. It was all of these things that I hadn't thought about, but it gave me a really amazing foundation for business and understanding, number one, consumer mindset, how people shop and why they shop, and how to market and how to present and how to calculate profit and how to price. And so I took all those skills and I started working with small businesses. I started working with neighborhood businesses at first, almost for free, because I moved back home, much to my parents' disappointment, because I had no job. So I moved back home and I started doing a lot of volunteering, and that led to a career in nonprofits. So I worked with a lot of nonprofits, economic development nonprofits, helping businesses get started. I worked for a while for the city of Philadelphia, but on the legislative side. I worked for Councilman Good Jr. as his economic development director. But again, my focus was small business development and entrepreneurship and neighborhood development. But probably when I think about all of the organizations that help entrepreneurs in this city and in the region, I probably worked with them or for them up until this very day. And so this, the 20 years that I've spent, 20 years or more that I've spent working with businesses to prepare them to do business. And now the role that I'm in, I'm able to open the door of opportunity for those same businesses that I've been preparing. So it's kind of a blessing and a nice next step.
I hear that. And how long have you been in your new position?
Oh, it's almost 60 days. So
Okay.
brand new, learning the ropes, understanding how the city spends money.
What'd you find out there?
What did I find out?
Yeah.
that they spend a lot of money. They spend a lot of money, and so when you think about, and I often, when I explain this to folks, think about yourself. Everything that we are consumers. Everything that is around you was purchased from someone. Your pens, your pencils, the chair you're sitting on, the desk that we're sitting at, these microphones, the switchboard. Everything was purchased from someone. And so when you think about the fact that everything the city uses is purchased from someone, it's the role of our office to make sure that women and minorities and disabled business owners get a shot at selling their products and services to the city. And so it's an interesting position. That's what I'm learning. I'm literally trying to learn, and I'm learning all of the different departments. There are about 38 city departments. There are quasi-government agencies. You're looking at what the prison spend and what the gas and company spends and what behavioral health spends and what DHS spends and what the streets department spends. And looking at all of this really opens my eyes to the fact that there are magnificent opportunities for businesses that are really ready and able to do business.
Okay. So to get on that roster, so to speak, of small businesses, and I guess entrepreneurs as well, to be seen by the city, what is that process?
That's a really good question. So you have to, the first thing that you have to do in order to be, anybody can do business with the city. Let me be clear about that. But our mayor has set a goal, a participation goal of 35%, right? It used to be 30%, and he's raised it to 35%. And essentially that means that 35% of all the money that's spent in the city of Philadelphia should be spent with a woman, a minority, or a disabled-owned business. And that doesn't seem like a huge percent, but it's very, very big. It's very, very ambitious. And in order to get your company in the mix, you got to do a couple of things. So the first thing you have to do is get what's called certified. Have you heard of certification before? Okay. So it is going to one of a number of agencies, and I'm happy to, anyone who wants to get some very specific information offline, I'm happy to provide that. But your business has to become certified as either a minority-owned business, a woman-owned business, a disabled-owned business, or they can get what's called a DBE certification, a Disadvantaged Business Enterprise certification. And those certifications can be, you can get those from a number of places. Once a business becomes certified, they can then go into the city's registry. So what happens is
So are they automatically added, or they have to do?
They have to actually
afterwards.
Right. So when they get certified, their certification letter, most of the agencies, not all of them, most of the agencies will say, they'll say congratulations, you've been certified, blah blah blah, and it will prompt them to contact my office to be added to the registry. It's called the OEO registry. And the registry, our registry right now has about 2,500 businesses in there that are certified, that then not only the city, this is an open registry. Anybody that wants to do business with a minority-owned, woman-owned, disabled business can actually go online, look at the registry, and look at the businesses that are in there and know, in fact, that they are doing business with a real minority-owned business, a real woman-owned business, so on and so forth. So the first thing you have to do is get certified. The second thing that you have to do is get into the registry. And then the third thing you have to do is what you'll do at any given point in business is to get out and to start to market yourself and to make sure that people know who you are and what you do. So I probably have, 15 meetings a month with businesses that say, I really want to talk to you. I want you to know what we do. And so getting out there, getting folks to know who you are. And so the city is one opportunity, but if you've got a construction firm or a graphic design company or a printing company or, I don't know, an engineering firm, you want to do business with the city, but you want to do business with other folks as well. So that certification is a great tool to get you in the door with not just the city, with a number of corporations and companies and other folks as well.
Okay, and I imagine this covers the greater Philadelphia area as far as businesses, or do you have to be in Philadelphia?
Nope, we have businesses that are in our registry that are from other parts of the country. One of the things that I'd like to do is to grow the number of businesses that are in the registry right now that are 191 businesses, that are Philadelphia businesses. But you do not have to be a Philadelphia-based business to get into our registry.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, that sounds pretty easy.
Well, it sounds easy, but if you talk to some folks that have done it, they're going to tell you, no, it wasn't quite so easy.
I hear that. It's just a matter of staying on top of it, I imagine, and being accurate and
absolutely
knowing exactly where it is that you want to go and fit in. What's some advice you would give to, let's say, someone coming out of college and has had or lived through some similar experiences as you had to grow up with, even before the decision to pursue something you're passionate about? What is something, or what are some things that you would tell that person? You did work with youth in a way for a good majority of time. You worked with budding entrepreneurs and small businesses, so in some respects that's also youth as far as thinking and development and business. So what are the biggest things that you can tell those people, or what you would tell a person if they approached you on the street and asked you, well, which direction should I go, or I'm thinking about doing this because of that, but I'm not really passionate about that. What are some things you would pass on to that person?
Well, nothing is easy. So it's interesting that, I hear particularly younger folks that are working say, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start a business because I'm tired of working for the man, or I'm tired of, this stuff is just too hard. Working for yourself is equally, if not more challenging, in my opinion, than having a job. The difference is, for many folks, if you're doing something that you really want to do, and if you're doing something that is authentic to your soul, it's something that you really, really want to do, that you're passionate about, even though it's hard, your ability to withstand and persevere and be resilient is ever present. If you are starting a business just to make money, get a job. Get a job. But what I would tell everyone is to identify at least what they think they want to do, and to start to get some skills in that area. One of the things that I've learned, and that I do believe, is that you don't have to go to college. College is really important, and I think that there's no downside to learning. However, you don't have to. There's so many people that have fulfilling, lucrative careers that have not gone to college. It really is about identifying your passion, identifying what skills you need to pursue that, and to go after acquiring those skills, whatever it might take. I had a meeting with two women, and it's not even about intelligence. One was a lawyer, and one was a physical therapist, and they wanted to open a coffee shop. So they between the two of them, they had capital, so they had financial resources. They had intellectual resources because they were very smart. They had creative capital. They were creative, but they knew nothing about the coffee business. And when I started to really probe to ask them why coffee, It was not because they had a passion about the business, but because they found a neighborhood that they thought needed a coffee shop. So, my opinion is that if that's really what you want to do, first of all, you have to want to be in that business. And I told them, I said, one of y'all needs to go work at Starbucks or Zaxby's for a minute. You really have to acquire the technical skill in addition to the intellectual, in addition to the financial, and in addition to the creative. You have to have the technical. So you have to understand what it is that you're doing, the type of business that you want to start. And once you have that, you can really, I mean, when I say I've seen magnificent things happen, we all have seen these great stories of young people, older people, finding out what they want to do, pursuing it, and really being successful at it. So for me, the root of the tree is passion, and everything else comes from there.
I agree quite a bit. I think when I speak with a lot of my life and career coaching and even executive coaching clients, it all comes down to passion.
Mm-hmm.
And more simply, why are you doing what you're doing every day?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't identify with you in some way that really means something, not only is the quality of your work going to suffer, but potentially the quality of your relationships in that space suffer. Right. And you obviously see and hear about that in the news quite often. Every day some CEO's fired, every day some executive leaves work, and it's not necessarily because they're not doing what they want to do. It's just the environments aren't being created to help them maximize their potential.
Yep. And
a lot of times it does take those passionate people to either withstand quite a bit,
mm-hmm.
and in order to see the type of environment that they were seeking to create or be a part of, and then it also sometimes derails those people.
Yep.
And they fall completely out of doing what they believe that they know they should be doing because
mm-hmm.
Of a bad experience. And I think it's probably most important that people just recognize the power of relationships.
Yep.
And recognize that you affect every person you come in contact
mm-hmm.
with, and those who you don't come in contact with, just by way of your actions and your everyday issues. How you address anything can affect a good deal of people, and in business it's just very important to have very little losses in that way.
Yeah.
And so, I hear all the time as well, I want to start a business, and it's like, all right, that's great.
But do you really want to start a business?
Yeah, it's like,
do you understand what it means to start a business?
It's like when you hear people say, I want to go travel or I want to go on vacation. Well, when you own a business, that's done.
Mm-hmm.
When you own a business, you can do a lot of moving around, but you still have to be cognizant of what's happening at all times. You still may need to answer that phone. You still may need to send an email. It may not be time-consuming, but it can be. And
mm-hmm.
and it's a lot that goes into business ownership from a discipline aspect that many jobs don't require.
That's right.
They require for you to show up at the time they paid you to show up, and do the duties you signed on to do. As a business owner or entrepreneur, you're doing duties that not only you don't want to do, but you find out new duties every day.
No job description.
No,
there's no job description.
There's nothing written down about being an entrepreneur or a small business owner, and so if you're not prepared mentally, if you don't have the discipline, if you don't have the focus, you're almost wasting time.
Yep.
And I say that to say, the business planning piece of the whole process, when we jump back to the grant question, is more important to do, because you still want to run that plan against some people. You just don't want to go for a grant because it's a good idea. You want to go for a grant because someone's going to grant you that access that you're looking for. You want to be able to do it the first time. You want to be effective and efficient. But you don't want to be wasting someone's time, because maybe that is the opportunity that you're going to get, and the next one might not be the one that you could have got had you pursued what you were trying to do a little bit more, call it professionally, but strategically as well. And so with that, I think most of our listeners, or people who would be watching or listening, just from the couple months that we've been running this program, are all interested in starting businesses.
Okay.
Just about everyone that I know of is starting a business, started a business, considering starting a business. So I feel like I just want to give you the mic. Shoot out some resources, shoot out some things that people can look forward to with your organization, as far as workshops, classes, whatever. Just shed some light on what people can do to start.
All right.
Not only just start what they want to do, but to help others start by saying, hey, you know, I just heard this piece of information. This is where you can go. So be as specific as possible.
I can. Okay. Let me start with something esoteric, though, first. So the first thing that I encourage all of the business owners that I coach or that I work with to do is to fast forward 15 years, minimum, to 20 years. And I ask them to describe their perfect day. Nothing to do with the job. Nothing to do with the job. So 20 years from now, sometimes we say, okay, let's start with 10 years. 10 years from now, your eyes open, you wake up, you get out of bed, what happens? What happens that day? And so they describe their day. And then I'm like, okay, let's go 15 years from now. What does that look like? You get up, 2 feet hit the floor. What happens? And then we talk about 20 years. And so it really, if you start to think about what you want your life to look like, then you start to back into what can give you that life that you envision for yourself. So if you imagine, you know, for me, I'm almost 50 years old. So 20 years from now, God willing, I'm still around. When I put my 2 feet on the floor, I want to get up, grab a cup of coffee, go sit out on some balcony somewhere and be looking out on some water, and preferably a beach. And so I think to myself, okay, what is the path that will get me there? So for some people, especially younger people, it might be in 5 years you're getting up and there's nobody in bed with you. But maybe 15 years, maybe you're married, maybe you have kids, maybe, you know, people want to travel. I want to wake up and I want to be on the beach and I want to, you know. So what is the path that's going to get you to where you think you want to be? And there's not just one path, but what are the paths? And so we start to talk about, or we juxtapose the life that you want compared to the path that you're heading down. And if you have this idea of kind of picking up and going, and you know, being able to travel, and you know, the business that you start has to be supportive of that. So you're not going to open you're not going to open a restaurant if in 5 years, if that restaurant's still open, you may not have been able to take a vacation in 5 years if you want to open a restaurant. So we're really looking side by side what you want to do, what you want your life to look like, and what is the path to get you there. And if it's entrepreneurship, what type of business is going to support your passion and what you want your life to look like. So that's the first exercise that I want all the listeners to go through, because sometimes how you envision your life, how you want your life to be, you're not on the right path. Or you're not starting the business, or you're not pursuing the job that's necessarily going to get you to where it is that you want to go. So that's the first exercise. We live in a city that has a wealth of resources for individuals that want to start a business. And whether you are at the ideation stage, meaning I'm thinking about this, or I'm thinking about that, or whether you have a fully formed idea or whether you started a business, there are some really great places that you can go. And I'm going to start throwing some stuff out. But again, I'll make sure Tyrone has all of the specific information that he can post in his newsletter or on his website. So there are things called SBDCs, Small Business Development Centers, that are associated with typically major universities and that offer multiple services. So Temple has an SBDC, Temple University has a Small Business Development Center. The Wharton School has a Small Business Development Center. Westchester University has a Small Business Development Center. In the city of Philadelphia, there are a number of smaller nonprofits that are really, really amazing. I spent the last 3 years of my life as the executive vice president of a place called the Enterprise Center, and that's located at 46th and Market. And the mission of the Enterprise Center really is to accelerate minority-owned enterprises. So whether you have a need for capital, they have a loan program. They've got technical assistance and workshops for businesses at varying stages. And they've got opportunities to connect you to networks that you talked about and getting to know people. So that's a great organization to connect yourself to. Another great organization is called Entrepreneur Works. That organization is an amazing organization if you're still in the idea stage. But they also help all stages of business. But if you're trying to figure out, I've got this idea, I'm a really good baker, or I'm really good at event management, and I want to get started. How do I put a business plan together? Entrepreneur Works is great for that. The Women's Opportunities Resource Center, it's called WORC, W-O-R-C, is great for that. Let's see. The SBDCs also have business plan classes that they offer. So those are some really amazing places that you can go to here in the city of Philadelphia that can really help you get started, help you start to think about what it is that you want to do. Now, if you are in business, making money, maybe even have some employees, but you want to grow even bigger, there are a couple places you can think about. One, there's a program called the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. And that is a program that is clearly backed by Goldman Sachs. And they work with businesses that have revenues, I believe the minimum revenue of the firm to get into that program, you have to have at least $150,000 in sales. But that is an amazing program to help you really think through what's called a growth plan, because you're already in business and now you want to grow your business. A similar program that helps businesses that are a little more advanced is located at the Enterprise Center. It's called the Scale Up Program, and that is funded by the SBA. And it is another program that's designed to help you scale your business from, I don't know, $125,000 or $150,000 to $500,000 to $1 million. And so there are multiple places you can go. But I encourage you to, all you have to do is to really sit down, and if you type in Google, if you put in small business development in Philadelphia, you're going to get a lot of these organizations that I talked about today. So I think that's a place to start. Another really good resource that I encourage you to link into is SCORE. SCORE is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. SCORE has amazing workshops, many of which are free, and you can go onto the SCORE website and you want to get on their mailing list, and they will then begin to send you information about their upcoming workshops. They also provide free counseling, free one-on-one counseling to individuals that really need help thinking through what it is that they want to do. So I think if you start with one of those organizations, you can't go wrong.
Okay. I have had the opportunity to add all of those organizations into the thread of this video.
Excellent.
I'll track down the links
Yep,
at another
give it the
time and
links
throw
up.
those on the website for everyone to be able to go track them down. We've got 4 minutes left, so it
Okay.
went pretty quick, right?
It did.
All right, so if you wouldn't mind, or if you'd like to, just let the audience know how they can reach you, contact you, best way to find you,
Sure.
any information that you'd like to share.
Absolutely. So the best way to reach me is via email, and you can reach me at Iola, IOLA, Harper, HARPER, at phila, PHILA.gov. So it's iola.harper at phila.gov, and I'd be happy to direct you to any of the resources that I talked about, or if you've got, some specific questions or issues, I can most likely find a resource for you, and I can direct you where it is that you need to be directed. But I also just want to get in a plug, because it is November 28th. Is today the 28th? What is today's date?
30th.
30th. Today is the 30th. We are square in the throes of holiday shopping. And I would be remiss if I did not encourage the listeners to support local neighborhood businesses this holiday season. Yes, for those of you who do shop, and for those of you who do buy gifts, the mall is a great place to go. But I want to tell you that the businesses that are in our neighborhoods, that are in your neighborhoods, want and need your support. And that I want to share with you that the dollars that you spend in the neighborhood, a larger percent of those dollars stay in that neighborhood. And so if you want to figure out, what can I do, or how can I contribute to the stability of my neighborhood? How can I contribute to the stability of my community? It is spending your dollars with them. And so make a commitment. The city of Philadelphia has a goal of 30% or 35%, which means that 35% of all their money is going to go to women, minority, or disabled enterprises. I want each one of you to set a goal, if you are a shopper for the holidays, just to set a percent. Say, I want to spend, out of all the money I'm going to spend, 20% of my money is going to be spent with local neighborhood, minority, women-owned businesses. And you'll be surprised. If everyone made that type of commitment, you would see a market change in our neighborhoods and our communities. Our local businesses are the ones that are creating jobs. They're the ones that are hiring our children. They're the ones that are looking out for our kids and for us when we're walking up and down the neighborhood. So I really want to put a plug in, and I really want to strongly urge the listeners to be supportive of our local businesses this holiday season.